You've seen Midsommer, you know it's disturbing, you know it's beautiful. But here's what nobody told you. Every ritual in that film, the cliff, the maypole dance, the May Queen, the bear, the fire, every single one traces back to a real pagan holiday. A holiday that predates Christianity by thousands of years, one that millions of people across Northern Europe still celebrate every June. It's called LEETHA, the Summer Solstice, the longest day of the year. Ari Aster didn't use it as a backdrop, he used it as a blueprint. And once you understand what LEETHA actually is, what it actually means, the ending of Midsommar stops being a horror movie ending, and starts being something far more unsettling than that. But before we get into the holiday, there's a piece of Swedish folklore from 1785 that almost nobody who has reviewed this film has ever mentioned. And once you hear it, you'll realize Ari Aster didn't invent the Hårga. He found them. The HÅRGALÅTEN. In 1785, in the Hälsingland region of Sweden, there was a village called Hårga. The story goes like this. The young people of Hårga are dancing in a barn when a stranger appeared. A fiddler with burning eyes and a wide hat. He plays a tune nobody has ever heard before. Once the youth start dancing to it, they cannot stop. He leads them out of the barn, up the mountain, and they dance until only their bones remain. The fiddler is the devil. Ari Aster confirmed in interviews that the Hårga commune is directly named after this village and this legend, known as the HÅRGALÅTEN, the Hårga tune. He built the entire commune on this one specific piece of Swedish folklore. Now watch what that does to the maypole dance scene. During the dance competition, a Hårga woman delivers a speech in Swedish, unsubtitled, so most audiences missed it entirely. She explains that the black one, the devil fiddler, once lured the youths of Hårga to dance until they died, and now in defiance of him, the community dances until they fall, on their own terms. The maypole dance is not just a fertility rite, it is a defiance ritual. The last woman standing has outdanced the devil. That is what Dani wins. That is what she becomes. But to understand why that matters, you need to understand the holiday the black one belongs to. A holiday that's been celebrated since before Stonehenge was built. What LEETHA actually is. Stonehenge, built around 2500 BCE. Its entrance faces the rising sun on the day of the summer solstice. Whatever else it was, calendar, temple, monument, it was built by people who considered this specific moment in the year important enough to align an entire stone structure with it. That's how old this holiday is. The name LEETHA comes from the old Anglo-Saxon word for the month of June. The monk and author, the Venerable Bede, documented it in 725 CE, recording that the Anglo-Saxons called June Era LEETHA, and July Eftera LEETHA. The name is over 1300 years old in written record. In modern Wiccan practice, it was formally adopted in the 20th century by Aidan Kelly, who drew directly on Bede's writings and noted that Tolkien had independently used the same word in the Shire calendar of Middle-earth. LEETHA sits on the wheel of the year directly the high point of the solar year, and here is the thing that makes it genuinely strange. The summer solstice is the longest day, the most light, the peak of the sun's power. By every measure, it should be pure celebration. But in the pagan understanding, it is also a death. The moment the sun reaches its peak is the moment it begins its decline. From the day after the solstice, the days get shorter. The darkness starts winning. The light has reached its fullest expression, and now it must yield. The longest day is simultaneously a celebration and a funeral. Hold that thought. It is the entire film. Why Sweden? Sweden sits at a high enough latitude that at midsummer, daylight can be observed even in the middle of the night. In northern Sweden, the sun doesn't set at all. In the south, it barely dips below the horizon before rising again. Think about what that means for a pre-Christian agricultural community. For most of the year, especially the brutal Scandinavian winter, darkness dominates. The sun is a precious, rationed thing. And then midsummer arrives and the sun simply refuses to leave. That experience, a night that never goes dark, is why Swedish midsummer is one of the most elaborate celebrations in the world. The film captures this deliberately. Mark freaks out seeing the sun blazing at 9 p.m. The group can't sleep properly. Their sense of time dissolves. The constant light is disorienting in a way that darkness never is, because darkness is familiar. This particular brightness is not. The Hårga use that disorientation as a tool. A community that controls your relationship with time controls everything. And they've been controlling time for a very long time. We know this because they told us in the very first frame of the film. The mural. Before anyone arrives in Sweden, before the first ritual, before anything, it's all already there. This is not conventional foreshadowing. This is the Hårga's theology made visible. The future is already written because the cycle never changes. Every outsider who arrives has already been seen. Dani was expected. The source of that vision is Reuben, the commune's oracle, a deliberately inbred child whose finger paintings are treated as divine revelation and compiled into the Hårga's sacred text, the Ruby Radar. The elders interpret his images as scripture. His disability is considered a gift, a mind unclouded by ordinary consciousness, open to what others cannot perceive. The Hårga don't improvise. They don't react. They execute a plan written before any of these people were born. And the architecture of that plan is built on a single number, the 9. 9 days, 9 sacrifices, 90-year cycle. The number is everywhere, and it is not random. 9 is one of the most sacred numbers in Norse cosmology. There are 9 realms connected by Yggdrasil, the world tree. In the Havamal, the ancient Norse poem, Odin hangs on the world tree for 9 nights to receive the runes. The community of the Hårga undergoes collectively over 9 days what Odin underwent alone. Adam of Bremen recorded in 1070 CE that Uppsala held a great sacrifice every 9 years, though historians note this account is secondhand and its details are disputed. What isn't disputed is that 9 represented completion in Norse sacred tradition, a full cycle, the number that contains all others within it. The Hårga's life stages confirm this. Childhood ends at 18, pilgrimage runs to 36, working age to 54, elder wisdom to 72. Every milestone a multiple of 9. Their entire lives structured around the same sacred number as their festival. 90 years is 10 cycles of 9, a complete generational span. 9 sacrifices purchase 90 years of fertility and protection, the mathematics of the sacred, which means when the elders climb that cliff on day 2, that is not random. That is the cycle beginning exactly where it is supposed to begin. The ÄTTESTUPA. 2 elders climb a cliff. They jump. One dies on impact. One survives, legs shattered, screaming. A Hårga man steps forward and crushes his skull with a mallet. The community mirrors his screams, absorbing his pain collectively. Astor presents this as the ÄTTESTUPAN ceremony. Here is what you need to know. The ÄTTESTUPA, the so-called senility precipice, is a legend, not documented historical practice. It appears in medieval Icelandic sagas and romantic retellings of Norse antiquity. Modern Swedish historians are unambiguous. There is no hard evidence this ever actually happened. Astor used it anyway, and that choice is more interesting than if he'd used something verified, because the ideas underneath the legend were real. The belief that a person's death could be a gift to the community, that dying at the right moment was honorable rather than tragic, that the individual was subordinate to the collective survival. Those ideas shaped real cultures, even if the cliff didn't. What makes this scene genuinely unbearable is not the gore, it is the sincerity. The elders chose this. They were honored for it. The community wept with them. By the Hårga's own standards, it was a good death. And the community mirroring the dying elders' screams is the most accurate detail in the entire film. The collective absorption of pain, grief shared rather than witnessed, is documented across multiple Northern European traditions. The Hårga don't watch him die, they die with him. Death is honored here, but the solstice is not only about death. It is about what death makes possible, and the Hårga encoded that belief into the color of their entire world. The yellow world. Look at the color of Midsommer. Everything is yellow, the flowers covering every surface, the crowns, the temple, the candles, the sunlight itself. Production designer Henrik Svensson confirmed the film's yellow palette was intentional, describing it as a deliberate homage to yellow throughout the commune's visual world. That yellow connects directly to the most important herb in Midsummer tradition, St. John's wort. Bright yellow flowers at peak potency on the solstice. Its Latin folk name is Fuga Demonum, devil's flight. For centuries it was cut at midsummer and hung above doorways, above cribs, above every entrance to a home. Its purpose, to drive away evil spirits, to chase the devil. The specific flowers in the film aren't confirmed as St. John's wort, but in a film where the central mythological villain is the black one, the devil fiddler, the entire commune is saturated in the color of the herb that historically chases him. Whether intentional or not, the symbolism is exact, and the yellow runs deeper than the flowers. Terry died in a yellow shirt. The parents died on yellow pillowcases. The sacrificial temple is yellow. The color of midsummer protection is also the color of death and transformation throughout this film. The yellow is a ward, the entire commune draped in the color that chases the devil, because the black one is always the threat, and the festival is always the defiance. Which brings us to the defiance ritual itself. The Maypole and the May Queen. 3 layers of real tradition operating simultaneously. Layer 1. The Maypole itself. The Midsommarstång, ancient fertility symbol. The dance, a ritual enactment of the union between earth and sky. In the old understanding, The energy raised by the dancing was believed to feed the land directly. Layer 2. The HÅRGALÅTEN. The dance competition is a defiance of the Black One. The community dances until they fall, voluntarily on their own terms, reclaiming the dance that once killed their ancestors. Layer 3. The May Queen. The May Queen is a figure that appears across European midsummer and spring traditions. She represents the goddess of the land, the feminine principle of fertility and sovereignty. In the oldest versions of the tradition, the May Queen didn't just wear a crown. She was the land. Her well-being was the land's well-being. Her choice was the land's choice. Dani wins not because she's the best dancer. She's the only one dancing from genuine feeling. The land chose her. Now look at the runes woven into her May Queen dress. Rido, the rune of journey and evolution, meaning crisis and death in its reversed position. Dagaz, the rune of dawn, awakening, and new beginning, the threshold between states. Together, a journey through death toward a new dawn. The Hårga read Dani before she arrived. The runes on her dress are a diagnosis, not decoration. When Dani is given the power to choose the final sacrifice, that is not Aster's invention. That is the May Queen's ancient function. The Queen of the land decides what the land requires. The land needs an heir, and the ritual that produces that heir is the most historically grounded scene in the film. The love potion and the sacred union. The scene most audiences find most disturbing isn't the cliff. It's the room with the older women. Christian is brought to Maya. Older women surround the bed. They moan and move in synchrony with the couple. One of them is Maya's mother. This is not invented. This is a direct depiction of the sacred union ritual performed at Midsommer to ensure the fertility of the land. The community's participation is not voyeurism, it is liturgy. The women present are channeling the energy of the act into the land itself. Finnish midsummer traditions include documented love magic, picking flowers, casting spells for future partners. The love binding Maya used, incorporating her own bodily substances into Christian's food and drink, draws directly from documented Scandinavian and broader European folk magic tradition. Intimate bodily substances were considered the most powerful binding agents available. Look at the rune on Christian's robe just before this scene. Tiwaz, the rune of the Norse god Tyr. Associated with masculine power, duty, and self-sacrifice. He was marked before he entered that room. The Hårga chose him before he knew he was chosen. The child Maya will carry is the community's child, conceived at the peak of the sun's power in a ritual performed for generations. The land has what it needs, which means the outsiders have either served their purpose or violated the Hårga's codes. And the Hårga's response to violation is as precise and internally consistent as everything else they do. The bear and the fire. The triangular yellow temple, and inside Christian sewn into the skin of a bear. In Norse tradition, the bear is one of the most sacred animals, associated with Odin and with the berserkers who wore bearskins into battle. But more specifically, the bear is said to bring balance to the world, strength and healing combined, the force of nature that cannot be domesticated but can be directed. Sewing Christian into the bearskin dissolves his individual identity into the sacred animal. He becomes the vessel, not the man. The bear carries the community's accumulated spiritual debt, its impurities, its failures, everything that needs releasing, into the fire. The fire itself is the LEETHA bonfire taken to its absolute extreme. The word bonfire comes directly from bone fire, bones burned at midsummer to create purifying black smoke. Documented in 15th century records, the Hårga's fire does exactly this. It purifies the community for the next 90 years. The triangular temple echoes the burning sun wheels rolled down hills at midsummer across northern Europe, representing the sun reaching its turning point and beginning its descent. The fire is burning, 9 sacrifices inside it, the black smoke rising, the Black One chased away for another generation. And standing outside, covered in flowers, surrounded by her new community, Dani Ardor is smiling. That smile is the most debated image in modern horror cinema, and almost everyone who has tried to explain it has gotten it wrong. Dani's smile. Every analysis of this ending forces it into a binary, broken or liberated, tragedy or triumph. Both miss the point entirely. Go back to what LEETHA actually is, the longest day that is also a death, the peak of light that begins the darkness, the celebration that contains a funeral. The solstice doesn't ask you to choose between joy and grief. It holds both simultaneously. The sun is at its most powerful, and it is dying. Both things are true at the same time. This paradox is so fundamental that the Christian Church encoded it into Scripture. St. John the Baptist's feast was placed deliberately at June 24th, 3 days after the solstice, and John's own words map the paradox exactly. He must increase, while I must decrease. The forerunner points to the light and then diminishes. The sun reaches its peak and then diminishes. The pattern is the same because the pattern is the year itself. Dani arrived in Sweden already in the middle of a death. Her family, her relationship, the version of herself that existed before all of that happened, she came to Sweden already falling. The Hårga didn't create her loss. They gave it a container, a ritual, a meaning, a community that absorbed her grief the way they absorbed the dying elder's screams, collectively, completely, without looking away. Her name was never an accident. Ardor, Latin for flame, fire, heat. She was always going to end up at the fire. She was named for it before the film began. The smile at the end is not the smile of someone saved. It is the smile of someone transformed. The sun has reached its peak. The darkness is beginning, and Dani Ardor, the flame, is at her most powerful in the moment she starts to change. That is LEETHA. That is the summer solstice. That is what Ari Aster understood and encoded into every frame of this film. The longest day, the most light, the beginning of the dark, and a woman smiling in the fire. Midsommar is not a horror film about a cult. It is a LEETHA ritual that you watched from the outside. Every custom, every symbol, every sacrifice, drawn from a real holiday still celebrated across Scandinavia every June, with flower crowns and maypoles and schnapps and dancing. The same holiday, the same roots, the same paradox. The horror isn't that the Hårga are doing something alien. The horror is that they're doing something ancient. Something that made sense to human beings for thousands of years before we decided it didn't anymore. If this video changed how you see Midsommar, subscribe. Because every film in this playlist is going to do the same thing to a holiday you thought you already understood.